So team, welcome back. Continuation for our weekend training on automation. Second session, day one, and running a quick poll to know from your audience, from my audience, who have been leading a QA team. So first option is currently you are, or previously you have, or you've not led a team but worked in active QA team, or you've not worked in any of these activities. So I've got about 64% votes in. If I get a few more, I'm going to close it and let's go on with the session. So anyone has anything to speak, talk about, let it be interactive. I would want you to ask questions. I would want you to speak about what's happening. Let's keep it interactive, team. So let me close this polls. I've got 80% votes. Some of you are just joining in, so all right, I've closed it, 87%, and I'm sharing it right now, team. So pretty glad with this output. I mean, I like my polls always. I always keep saying that. But here is the output. Can you all see it on your screen? 38% of you currently leading teams, and that's the biggest audience that we have. And that is what we're trying to get to address the large portion. You've previously led team under the 23%, so that's great. So at least close to about 60% is in that zone of you've been QA leads, you've managed team. And the remaining 40% is more in you've worked in QA or maybe not got an opportunity. Cool. So great. Let's get back to our topic. What we're trying to accomplish is very simple, team. We have about 4 projects, and I want to go through every script in it and talk about it, what we're doing, how we have done, and expand on that. Is that fine? So we'll get to know a lot about the automation scripts, what they do, how they can behave. And tomorrow we'll play a lot on more features around it. All right, great. So where are we? We got an issue saying that there's an illegal state exception, and that's because of we putting this issue. We have kind of ingested a defect into it, and that gave us, we never have a Chrome driver 1.exe. So once this is done, and then I think it should pretty much go do everything and close and come out. And that's what this script was all built in to do. What you are seeing is called as a linear regression framework. Why is it called linear? Primarily because it just flows through everything one step at a time. It's got all the direction of the application, what it needs to do, all out there. So it doesn't have any, too much of deviations and so on. One of the simplest ways that we can write our automation tests. Now, the point I want you to note is that this DDF1, what does it mean, team? Can I know who does not know for sure? Put it in your chat that I don't know what is DDF stand for. For those who know, please put an answer for me. I would want to know how many of you know what is DDF or KDF. If you don't, then please tell me that I don't know what that is. And team, I'm just pausing the video for a few seconds. I believe there are a few members calling. Let me check on that. And please do put it in there. Can I have answers from everyone, team? Just takes few keyboard strikes of yours. All right, team, I'm back. So great, thank you. Almost every one of you are aware, and for some of you who are not, we will talk about this, team. DDF stands for a data-driven framework, KDF for a keyword-driven framework. Now, in our world of automation testing, hello. We have a concept called as frameworks. Now, there are different types of frameworks, team, that we will talk about. But what is a framework itself? How do you define a framework? The easiest way I can talk about a framework is that it is like a skeleton. Think of a human skeleton, okay? If you take a human skeleton, you can only build the same type of human species who stand erect and who will be able to have 4 limbs, the head on the shoulders, all of these things. The template is the same. Now, using that one skeleton, we currently have 7 billion humans plus on this planet. Of course, I don't know where else we're living if not here. But the fact that a skeleton gives us a structure of how we can implement. Think of it like when you're building, constructing a corporate office, and all you do is first raise the pillars, put the floors, and that construction concept has almost been consistent over a lot of decades for us, right? How we build simple buildings for corporate constructions. Now, how does one office design its interior from another's office, and how they use their large spaces or small rooms or cubicles is their customizations. So it gives a structure, users customize over it. The same concept is with cars. So cars belong to a segment where they have a chassis, they have a skeleton. So on that chassis or on that body, they can change things. They can change the color of it, they can change the doors on it, but the engine and all those things may still come and be the same framework for it. Now, the same concepts goes into the world of automation testing. So, what are these QA automation frameworks that are applicable in it? When we talk about software testing team, we are basically at the end of it making sure that there's defect-free applications to the largest extent possible. Now, the first and most important thing is something called as linear regression. Just kind of flows through. I'll explain, and I'm writing down. I'm not writing too many notes, team. Step by step. Okay, what we need to do, scenario by scenario. Each scenario, I want to say that this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do. Now, the basic problem in a linear regression is there is a concept of when you keep going, you'll notice that there's so much in an application. How will I maintain such a big code? It becomes long, it becomes large. Then they said, let's use functional decomposition. So this is almost how we've kind of evolved into automation testing in the last 15, 20 years, team. And functional decomposition basically saying you let's base the business processes into reusable functional components. So what do I mean to say? My programs don't have to look like, click here, click there, do this, do that, where unless I know what these fields are, team, and where it is pointing to the application, it is not user readable friendly. So if someone who does not know software testing comes in here, will find a challenge that, what is this? What is this? So we're saying we can break it down into something more organizable functions. So we will talk about that. We will also be speaking about then a concept on data driven framework. So the biggest challenge for data driven framework is your, I'll use a bad word, unhard coding test data. So for example, now we were working on YouTube and we were sending this blah, 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 click, 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 AUT, right? I want a way that I can test my application on different sets of data. Look at healthcare applications or financial or auto industry or anything to do where you change certain parameters, output changes. For example, in a car, how does the speed change based on this number of cylinders, horsepower, the gas, the acceleration that you're using the gear. So there's so many parameters. The prediction to predict, like function of an x, oopsie, function of x comma y comma z equals some a. Now this we need to keep making sure that it works every time, and your xyz changes, and you need to ensure that your tests are getting in that direction. So our DDF1 is one of the first scripts that is taking us towards the data driven framework concept. Then comes another one called keyword driven concept. Now, in keyword-driven framework, what we say is we're talking about application. An application can be broken down into modules. Like let us say WhatsApp has, what kind of a modules does a WhatsApp application have? It has ting, 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 what chat, one-on-one chat. It has group chat. It has voice call. It has video call. It has status update and all of this. So each of them is a module. Within that, there are certain scenarios, right, as to what we want to do, how we want to do. Same with any application. Let us say there's a banking application where you want to make some transfers, or you want to do some account transfer. So what do? You log into the application, you check your balance, you transfer balance, you come out. So instead of breaking things down, so break TCs down to reusable keywords. So instead of keeping on writing individual tests, if I just say that, okay, my first test case is open application, login, confirm login, view balance, log out. My next test case, I will write like this. It look as those simple 5 steps, team. We will go deep into them. Then we have a page object model or a page factory. Everyone with me? All okay so far, team? Thank you. If not, just let me know. There's one hand raised, I see. I'm not sure if it is. Lakshman, do you have a question for me? I see a hand was raised. Yes, no? All right.
Hello.
I mean,
I'm
yes. Did you have a
I'm sorry.
question?
Yeah, I'm not able to type it actually
Oh,
to
in the
ask some.
chat
Yes. Is it? Do you need to enable something or
from
it's
your end?
automatically?
No. Let me send you a message.
I'm sorry.
Did you see that? No problem.
Yeah, I think it's now okay.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
coming to my
That's
private one, but I don't.
okay.
Yeah, it's either way is the same thing. That's fine.
Yeah. Okay. That's fine.
So,
Thank you.
so far, you're not able to interact. Sorry about that.
No. I can hear, but if I wanted to send any message, I was not
Right.
able to
So
do that.
interact, yeah, by replying.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
sure. Thank you. Can I put you back on mute, Lakshman? I will, yeah. Great. Okay, so where are we? Page object model, page factory. Now, uh, in here, the focus has gone away from functionality. Break thesis down to reusable functional keywords, or however we can call them, to this next one, page object model, page factory, where the focus has shifted to elements and what they can do. So primarily they're saying that end of the day, all we have to do is in an application, I'll have to go in and make some changes to it. So let's say if I go to an application like amctheaters.com, and if I need to, what is it that I was explaining? Page object model, page factory. So here, so many scenarios you could think through, ain't it correct? There's an unlimited number of scenarios as to what you could test. Sign in, see a movie, and see how many we have out here, and they'll keep changing. Remember that. There are theaters, and you can look at what's there locally. You can go all the way to find a movie theater, book, select your seats, and purchase, team. So that's a lot of software automation that's happening in the back end. And this is a large used website. So people would keep ensuring that everything happens well. So when we want to test this, we know that there's a lot of functional components. The page object factory or page model, what it says is, I know that in this page, all these elements are there. They will always come like this in this pattern. Let me identify. And let us say if this get tickets is one of the elements, or this is one title, this is the large title of the movie, and this is the article written, this is the image. So these are 4 components into one section, okay, of a scenario. And you have to get tickets and go into talking about what we do there. So how do you identify this first, this element called get tickets? That is one story. Second, what is it that the user will ever do on it? They will say, hey, is it there? present or not? Is it accessible? Can I click it or not? Then once I click it, will it take me to where I want it to go? So these are the verifications that we want to make sure that they're happening. And that is where we're saying that every page at the end of it is built of a lot of these elements. So if we predefine and say what this element is, where this element is, and what we want to do, then we can write a lot of code that looks like, ATDD or BDD and so on. Behavior driven development or acceptance test driven development. All they're doing is English like looking, automation, regression tests. Okay. And I would want to talk about tools like robot framework and how they do team. At least briefly we'll touch upon. But now let's get back to what we're doing. So this, what notes I wrote out here are the different frameworks that we would want to go through in what we do. All right. QA automation frameworks types, framework types. So this is almost from session 2, right? Day 1, part 2. All right. Now let's go back to, so this is where, let's go back to Eclipse and further do this. So that was my data-driven framework first one team. So I started calling it as DDF, but maybe before that I did high team, and so on. Let's look at a simple JUnit code now. How is a JUnit code different from a regular Java program? Okay. You will notice that they both have the same .java extension. All right, so there's nothing different in it. But JUnit is nothing but a Java framework team. Okay, it also has your jar file that you have to associate when you want to use JUnit. So there we put our JUnit jar file. So that lets me handle certain additional things. So what is JUnit and why was it even created? So JUnit was something called as a Java framework. Now, did you think that framework was a concept that we only started to use with automation testing? No, it was there all the way, team, all the way from frameworks itself as a concept, like building frameworks and so on, has been there for a long time. But applications like Java, programming tools like Java are used so rapidly by developers. And what they've realized is before they wanted to check in their code where others could start seeing or testing, they wanted to test it themselves. So developers wanted to get into testing and say that, what, I need some simple way where I can do three things. I can do a preparation of a test, I can run my program as an activity or as a test, and I can do cleanup activities after that, as if nothing has happened. Clean up in the sense, if you've done anything, I just want to make sure that everything is working fine and so on. So for this concept, JUnit was derived as a Java framework, which is helping developers to do unit testing before they push it into production. So what is it that they do in this? There's nothing but a lack of, first thing is there's a lack of a main method here, team. So in the main class, you'll not see any main method anywhere. If there's a main method, then it's a Java program. Now, I know this is a JUnit, or it could also be testng, but just by annotations, you can say sometimes. The primary difference is these annotations. There's an at before, there's an at test, there's an at after at the end here. All right. So these annotations tell the user what they have to do. So the application is basically not the application, the developer is basically coming and saying that I want to do certain activities and say, I want to clean up before my test. I have 1, 2, 3 tests that I will do. Test 1, test 2, test 3. And I will again not, I will prepare before test and I will clean up after my test. Okay, so now what happens, team, when we execute, if I put the same print statements in a regular Java code, all right, so this is all JUnit, right? I'm saying non-JUnit, but it looks like it's almost kind of trying to do the same. And a lot of cleanups I need to do, team, for sure. So this is my before prepare my test. Here's my first test. Here's my second test. That's all I'm doing in the test, correct, team? So I'm removing everything else. And then this is my after test. Now here is what we're trying to do out there. This is the, now I don't need this JUnit imports. That's where there's a yellow line that you're using something, you're putting something that you'll never use. So delete that. And there's my JUnit program and here's my non-JUnit. What am I doing here? I'm just saying prepare before my test. My test one, my test two, my test three, clean up after my test. And now run it. There you go. This is what happens. Now the same thing, if I try and run this, which I'm saying is a JUnit code, I'm going to right click on it, make sure correctly. So right click on the JUnit code, go to run as, and I'll say run it as a JUnit test. It does not run it as a Java application. Now you'll notice there are a couple of things that differentiated. One, the results look different. And second, I see this output here, which says everything is green, no issues in them. And it tells me something about a little time and what happened to each of my tests. It puts a green check mark that, okay, my tests have passed. Then, okay, that looks like a JUnit report. Basically, yeah, it's not looks like, it is a JUnit report, which gives you very simple information that I've run 3 tests, 3 out of 3 are passed, nothing error here, no errors, no failures. So everything is empty in the failure trace. If errors keep happening, you'll notice they'll keep coming up here. We'll explore them. Now, why do I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 print statements here? And I have only 5 print statements for the same code. And the logic is very simple, team. Here we're saying almost like prepare before all my tests once. That's the language, more correct. Clean up after all my tests. So I will prepare once, I will run first test, second test, third test, I'll clean up after. Then this logic is correct. That is what we want to do. How is this JUnit logic different? Prepare before each of my test. And here prepare after each of my tests, clean up after. So when I run this, you would then see that each time my test wants to run, it'll go and prepare or do something before it, and after that clean up. Again, before test 2, it will prepare, clean up, prepare, clean up. So that is where, team, it is very, very critical for us to understand how slowly in Java developers uh, started to create this framework called JUnit to do basic level of unit testing. Now, in the same terms, we have TestNG, team. I don't think I'm able to draw anything here anymore. Okay, so TestNG is also a Java framework that helps in a little bit more advanced testing. It's got more features. It's got better error reports to look at. There are more annotations that mean something. So in a JUnit code, all that is important for you to notice are the annotations. What is happening and before, at test, and so on. You'll start noticing that programs will have more and more the inputs like parameters you can send and few things, little variations. But basically, it's all about this annotations. Annotations say, what is it that this method is all about? When should this get executed, this function? And for each of them, so we have at before, at test, and at after. That's the simple one that we're looking at. All right, so that's JUnit versus a non-JUnit. What's a simple Java class? This is a simple program. Let's see. Where are we? DDF1 done. Now let's see DDF2. What is it that we have enhanced since that? Now, wow, we've written a lot. I mean, What we had basically done, team, is progressed this into the next level. Let us see, it is still working on youtube.com. So from the beginning, there are a few import statements, and here is where I have a strong recommendation, team. To be a good, learn to read code. That is important, team. And believe me, it will be as English like as possible. And make basic changes to it. To code, debug, run, repeat, and you have to then keep doing that in a cycle, team. That is when you get more and more exposure. But if you're in a QA leadership and you cannot get into that nooks and crooks of every detail, at least get the predominant idea. And what we started doing is, and as a good recommendation, you can also recommend all your team members to do good documentation on the script. So unlike DDF1, where we just had a flow, here I'm also put things using these 2 forward slashes, and it gets into green color as a comment as to what we are doing on each of them. So at any time, let's add comments. That's a good uh, practice to follow for developers, for SDET automation engineers. What are we doing here? Chrome driver, setting up, navigate to YouTube, maximize, perfect. Then implicit wait is missing here. I didn't give implicit wait. No, I didn't. Was it not there in this? No, let's give some implicit wait. Oh, actually, let it be as is. Maybe we did it in the other program. I don't want to change too much on the programs that we did. Now, let's see what is it that we did after we navigated their team. We're saying we find the element, which is search, like earlier, and we send yoga as the keyword. We wait 2 seconds, and then we go and find another element with a different XPath and click on it. So that's to a certain extent that we would want to see what is happening. Now let's comment the remaining code with a bulk comment. So I start with a /* single line comment means Java don't do anything about it. It's like just that /* and then end with, where does it end? Why it says implicit wait here too? Oh, there's so many. Okay, here and star till the end. I've taken it, team, all the way. Okay, so that's my main method all the way. And the only thing I'm doing here is, so this is a /* ***, the whole code till there will not get executed. So it's commented currently. Let us see what these steps do to begin with. So you should go in and type yoga and click on one of those videos. Now, how have we gone about identifying them, team? And let's talk a little bit about XPath maybe, and how is it that we're writing these details, and why it is important for critical for all automation engineers to identify elements. Everything else is built in, team. What to do, like a command, like a click or send keys or clear is there. So your talent should be in how we can identify them. And that process is very important, but let this test run. So it's typed on yoga, and I don't think it's clicked on anything, but if it has not done something, did it print anything? Why didn't it click? Maybe it clicked. Okay, yeah, it did. So I can go back. See, it typed yoga. Let me run this again and see, team. I did not see that execution. Oh, where did it click? I think it's clicked on this search icon legacy. So this is where it becomes important, team. It is not easy for us to map and say, what is this? Where is it clicking on? But primarily what it is clicking on is this search icon. So how did we identify these two elements? Now look at that pixel clarity that I want you and your team always to have, team, and keep focusing a lot onto it. The first element is here, and that is responding to the yoga out here. So this web element where you can enter the text. The second one that you start seeing here is primarily towards this um, lens field or button or image that you can click on to make that query process. Okay. Now, for us to be able to get these details, it's very simple, team. There are by element by using very simple, team. If there is something called as an ID or a name, then we will use that. If there's a link text, then we will use that. Else we'll write an XPath. That's the approach. Now, where do we get these details from? And that is what is called the HTML code of that element. So all that you're seeing in this application is because of that code that is there at the back end. So if I say right click and say view page source, that entire youtube.com is because of this code that we see here. Okay, and this code points us to specific things, what is happening where and how it must behave. Now for us physically to go through this and identify all of this becomes big challenge, team, not easy. But the automation tool, what it can do is it can search through that information and it will try and identify using something unique. So when we talk about objects and classes, very briefly, please. So anything that you in life you talk about as an object, let us say a car. Okay. I have my car and you have your car. So what is it that differs? There are properties that are used to identify your car and the properties that are used to describe your car. So ID means like your license plate, your VIN number could be an identification. Now the same properties are also there for you, a different car. And you'll notice that these definitely will vary, license plate and VIN numbers. But there are descriptions like, color, make, model, year, engine, and so on. Now that could be something you could have some in commonalities, right? You could have exactly the same car, but they look different. Sorry, they have a different license plate and VIN number, but their color, make, model, everything could match. So that is how we kind of describe or identify objects, team. And once you do that, then you have the choice to be able to take some actions on them. Actions or activities or methods or commands. Like what can you do on that car? You can drive, you can park, you can, do multiple things. So those methods become common for every object in that class. So basically, what we're saying is an object is nothing but um, it belongs to a category where I can group every object of that similar things into that class. So what is that similarity? That they all will have fields like license, plate number, VIN number, color, make, model, and they do the same activities. So to approach this in the programming world, in the same way as we've seen it here, we've started using the foundation concept of saying let's do it as object-oriented programming system. Oops. So we said that there are only two things. One, we need to understand the properties of it. Through some of these properties are used to identify them. Some are used to just describe them. And then we can do certain things. Now the same concept, we're going to take it into the application and repeat. So for us able to repeat, we need to get the HTML code specific to that element. Looking at the entire page source code is pathetic. So how do I get it for that element? So right click, inspect, and I'm now getting into one of the developer simple tools, which was only there with Firefox, Firepath, or not only there, it started there, Firebug and so on. But now any browser that you take, retain yourself till Chrome as much as you can while you're learning. Implementation perspective, you can keep switching to. So I am right now seeing that same code that we saw earlier, but in a little bit more organized manner. It gives me better visibility, control, and what I can want to do or see. So now my interest in is in the search field where yoga is typed. So I right click and say inspect, and I get to a place where I get this entire code. So primarily, whatever you see here is what is deciding how things look out here, team. That is what it is. So this is a HTML code. So I'm going to right click on it and say copy outer HTML. So once you do that, and team, I'm not going very in depth into this, but just basically saying, I can say my ID. Now here is my HTML tag. It says what type of an element it is. Input means you can enter anything. Button means you can click. IMG means image. A is for click links, href links, and so on. P for para, div for division, and CS, you have class, and so on. So many things that you could add as your HTML tag. In your HTML tag, you have a starting point that starts with a less than and an ending point that is a greater than. Everything else in that is used to either identify or describe it. Okay. These are the properties of that specific object that you see. So you can change the size, the color, the shape, the font, the property, a lot of things that you can do on that. Now, here are the list of so many properties. Now, can I use any of these other properties to identify them apart from ID or such? Sure, as long as it works. It's like saying, one second, team, let me take some water. Team, I'll just take a quick 30 seconds, please. I'm also going to pause the recording. My throat is really hurting. Give me 30 seconds, team. All right, sorry, where were we? Yes, so we were talking about HTML code of the element that we copied and pasted and HTML tag. Each of these on the left side of the equal to is called an attribute name, team. So any of this HTML code has a HTML tag, an attribute name, okay, and an attribute value assigned to it. So as long as I have ID or name that is unique enough, I could identify it. Or we can go with additional stuff. That is the approach, team, that we take. But now, does it mean that I cannot use the others to identify? Not necessarily. It is just like saying, let us say my car is there in a parking lot and I need to guide you to go and get to that car. What do? I point to a 1 second, team. Sorry. Sorry. I can just say that, hey, it's a red car there. It's a Toyota red car or a Mercedes blue car, whatever. That's more than enough because you will not find, you're just comparing among the other vehicles. But when it has to give more official comparison, I can always call you by first name. But if I want to recognize you in a database of people, then I have to use your email or a phone number. So that is about identification. Very, very key skill that everyone in your QA team must possess. Kindly ensure that you're driving them as to how good their element identification skills are. Now, typical non-performing or non-performing, I'll say, team, I wouldn't use any other bad word, performing automation engineers use record and run tools to get default element identifications. And that is the problem, team. So they'll let Selenium ID or a Catalan recorder record it, get those identifications and put it. What is wrong with them? Just the fact that you don't know what they put. There are two types of XPaths when we get into a little bit more: relative and absolute. Now, if you do not give the right information, today it'll work. On a long term, there's a lot of maintenance and issues team. And that is where please keep your eyes that if they're not good at element identifications, then they're not good engineers, automation engineers. That is a clear classification from my end. And if anyone from IT Learn student batch is listening as well, please do note that that is the most important skill that you need to have. At least the basic, simple ones. Now, how do I write an XPath team? XPath structure is very simple. You have two forward slashes followed by your HTML tag, open square brackets, at the rate, give an attribute name equals single quote attribute value. So what does it mean? If I don't remember what was there in this code earlier, could I write my own XPath? So this was there. So how do I write my XPath now for this yoga and to put in yoga there? Anyway, any questions, team? Any challenges? Anyone? Audio, video, flow? Can we get the recording of after this webinar? Yes, of all the webinars once you're a member, right? So you'll be having access to all of them. Our problem, I guess, IDs are created by developers, but ask us to use XPath. How to resolve this conflict? Perfect. Very, very genuine problem. See, and that is where, see, and let me copy this if I can. So who puts data into at values? Who puts it, team? Developers. So if developers put better content, it is automation friendlier. All right. Else, automation needs more attention. It is simple. Why? If they know they don't put an ID or don't give a right name, it just flows down and down, team. It does. There's no. And for us, if you're working in a QA team, let's just go to them and say, guys, can you do this? Can you make sure that you put an ID or name unique enough for every key field? That way our automation is going to be breeze. Sure, right? But till then, until we have that issue of different complex applications, we'll have to keep writing our XPath. And this is our format team. So what would it be then looking at this HTML code? Can you all put the XPath? Take 10 seconds and give me an XPath based on what I highlighted in this pattern here. Everyone, just do one that for me, please. All right, let's see. So I've got the following ones, and most of you have put this team. Two slashes, forward slashes, input, at the rate square brackets, sorry, as open square brackets, at the rate ID equals in single quotes, search. Is this correct, team? Everyone? So for those of you who did not answer, can you confirm if this is right? Yes. So let's take this value and put it in here. Oopsie, did I close something? Maybe that's fine. And I want to now find using this. So how do I, if I know the XPath, how do I write a step? Very simple, team. I know what is it pointing to, my driver, right? My driver dot, and I say, what do I want to do first, team, on the browser? See, my driver is pointing where? This is how we think, or automation engineers, we go about. And I say my driver is pointing to the application. In that, I want to find one element using what? By dot, and there you select your XPath and say, the value is actually here. This one, what we copied. So team, please don't get confused between these two backslashes and these here. These are considered as comment. The reason these are within, since they are already here, and I have a open and square brackets, it will be just considered as a string, so it won't worry too much. Now that I found it, what is it that I want to do? Send keys, and I'll say computer science something, computer sciences. And let's try and run this. Now, this is the ID that we've got, and see what happens when we execute it. And yes, I'm seeing a lot of you giving a few more. Thank you. Done? Completed? No. See, some issue has happened. And that's where you need to make sure that your automation team are good at. A lot of notes here, team. So we have to go through almost all the notes. Automation to T. Automation team must be good at debugging. And debugging is just basic logical and analytical thinking. Okay. I don't want you to become great programmers, team. That is not the intent, but to write enough correct programs to do the right automation testing. Now, if you have that skill, you are looking at getting into debugging and understanding. But how does this basic debugging can happen? What I do, team, a lot of times I use print statements to know where I am, what am I doing. So this is my start of my test. And I can keep on adding more and more print statements. And I'll say here, launching. Let us say I'm not a great programmer right now. I will take the help launching Chrome of these print statements to put like, see what happens. Let us say you're going into a forest and it is a new forest for you. So you don't know where you'll get lost. So you want to put a mark on the trees in the path that you go. So you come back, then you can find one of them and get to it. These print statements help you in that format. So now what we're doing here, going to YouTube. Okay. And then what we're doing here, search, oopsie, not a comment, it's a print. Search for whatever XYZ that we want to search for. And then finally, nothing else. That's the last step. So now this code, as I executed, it's the start of my test and everything broke. Yes, I can click on the line number and go and figure out, but I want a better things here itself to know exactly where the error happened around. See what passed, what did not pass. You getting, team? So let me rerun this. Now you'll understand what I'm saying. Same thing, start of my test one. Launching browser, launching Chrome done. Going to YouTube also is done. Or it's actually going there, doing that now. And then we'll have to search for XYZ. So did we search for XYZ? Did this come or not, team? Can I get a yes or no answer from everyone? Everyone. Did it search? Did the statement 25 print? I'm not seeing that yet. I'm just seeing what you're typing. Scroll. No, I won't scroll up yet. If I scroll up, you'll know, right? So our eyes, our intent, our thought should be about, without scrolling, without seeing what should have happened. We at least saw this came, this came, this came. Now search for XIZ. If it has already maximized the window, then this could have come, team. So now if I go up, I just wanted to see. So I'm assuming line 25 passed and it gave this. So I don't have to worry anywhere here. See, that is the art of debugging. Now my focus and attention will be only here. Something has gone wrong out here. Okay. And if I print one more thing saying out here finally and say search completed, that means that my search is done. If I do not see a search completed at the end, then it's not done. It's that simple for me. Okay, execute this. I'm doing a lot of executions, team. If you notice, the only primary reason is so that you get the depth of how each time we change it, things will progress accordingly. So see, I've got the same thing, but now I still have that issue. Now, what do we do about it? I need to debug, teams. The first and most important thing is click on the last one that came up, says DDF2, that's my file name, Java 26. So it points to where the issue is. Now you scroll up a little bit, you will notice the main issue team. It says exception in thread main. And this is what is all about automation testing. All right. So is about handling exceptions team. You want to make sure that things go smoothly. If this exception happens, then you want to write rules to be able to write rules as to what to do when exceptions happen. And we will do this with try catch block team as we keep going along. I'll talk about this. But right now, why did it fail? It basically tells me that no such element exception, that is the kind of exception. Like I explained to you earlier, WebDriver was the master class, and that we have Chrome driver, one of the child classes, Firefox, Opera, and so on. Similarly, in the world of exceptions, okay, there's a main parent thing called exception. Under that, you have different types of exceptions. No such element exception, index out of bound exception, file not available, so many things, element not interactable. These exceptions are the ones there. So we are pointing to the fact in here, going very specifically and saying no such element. Using what we have given, it cannot find. And now, why do you think line 26 failed? So see, as part of this debugging, QA leaders, listen to this. Not only am I putting checkpoints everywhere, tracks so that we can see what is executing, and we are also looking at through the print, the console log and see what has happened during the execution, where the error happened. And now we need to find a reason for it. Why is no one answering? Why am not getting a single answer? No one knows why line 26 is failing. Line 24 and 26, what is the difference, team? Do you see any difference except for this yoga and computer sciences? This basically will tell me how good we are as in the world of QA, how good our eyes are. Am I audible? Yeah, but no answer. Why it's failing? One, two answers. Now, as a QA engineer team, your eyes should be always hunting for those details very, very quickly. And that is where I say we should be pixel crazy. Every pixel should be correct. And so easy to see. Now, let us do this. One more print statement. And, just to, if you're not able to debug, you'll get stuck tomorrow. So will your team and so on. Going on YouTube, I'll say this is search yoga. Okay. And let's see what happens. And then I'll say search for CS, computer science. Oopsie. And then let's see what happens. This one. Okay. So I'm dividing it. Now we would know even more better if you could not answer by looking at the code. Now let your print statements help you and see. Then, if you think that is it because, so what all did it do? It searched on YouTube, it searched on yoga, it's finished that, and searching on CSS, computer science, that is the one that caused a problem. And it is never the problem of this keyword team. All that you can see is the difference, uppercase, lowercase. That's it. There's no other reason. And that is how intense your XPath identifications is. So your automation engineers must be element identification experts, ninjas on it. So that continues to become their biggest responsibility. Once they get that knowledge, it becomes very simple. Yes, Which one did you say? Escapes. I got a lot of answers, team. I got at least, I'll tell you how many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 of you had already answered that. It is uppercase, lowercase. Now, is Java case sensitive? Is Selenium case sensitive? Which is case sensitive? Is Python case sensitive? How about C Sharp? Which are not case sensitive? Which is case sensitive? How do you know? Can I tell you my easy solution in life, team? If someone asks me if it's case sensitive or not, I'll say I am not sure. I basically say that I am case sensitive. For me, search without uppercase and this with search, this uppercase are two different things. That is how I want to look at. And that way there will be, if you're case sensitive, you can work anywhere. If you're non-case sensitive as a human, for you, it doesn't matter if you write yoga uppercase or lowercase. Maybe it does not matter for the application team, but for you as a person. So Java is very case sensitive, so is XPath element identifications. You have to be extremely focused on that. Easiest solution is you always be case sensitive. Do not assume upper and lower case are the same. All right, great. So now that's done. So now we have both of this happening and hopefully this should run. And after that execution, I want to close. So I'll say my driver, come on, dot close. I know I'm still here, team. We have a few more, but at least the fact that how we are progressing. This is still doing the tests for us on the application. Let's look at it. It should be good to just look at. Yoga and then computer sciences. Why? And again, that's a debug. We know why it has done that. And because we learned it earlier, we will always try and clean up before dot clear. So the same thing I'll put even here. And anytime before we're sending the keys, we'll also clear that. And tonight, team, I'll try and send some of these codes to you. So, I would want to see executions at your end, wherever, whoever has Eclipse, Java set up, I want you to run them and show me. Okay, great. Now let's look at what else did we do in this code. Now, one of the biggest things I think was hard coding the search terms, yoga or computer sciences. Now, what we started saying, and let me remove this close, in here is I have a string, a variable that I will take a value in, and I will then my actual text that I'm saying is my driver dot find element by. So it is basically going and doing something after we process team, and it is printing expected actual. Test one pass, test one fail, close, end of my test one, end of my start of my test two. So before we go into the test two, let's finish test one once again. So I'm slowly going one by one, team, trying to understand. I want to make sure that this is commented because this would require it to be open. Where is my test? Oops. Yeah, let it be commented there too. Search completed. And this is what test case, end of my test one. So this I'll say start of my test one, I see. So let's comment these steps that we wrote right now. That way we'll focus on this. So what is, no, actually we need that too. Ting, 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 ting. So what do I comment then? I would want to work on that same yoga. So I'm going to comment the ones that we created. So it's CS. Yeah, so this, let's do a block comment. I can also put it at the end here, and this is all done. Now, out here, what we're doing, team, we're finding a different element, and I'm believing that this should be the what we're getting expected. Actually, let's run this. We will know, team. The results, once we click on it, I think it's getting the title of the first video or ID's title. See, now I'm having to reverse engineer from a code to the application. It's done something, I don't know what all, but it didn't fail anywhere. It went through, that is good. It says expected trending and actual is trending. That is the text it got when it said. So this command called get text is very simple. When we find an element on our driver using whatever methodology, we are getting the text that is displayed there. So you should at this point be able to see that same word called trending somewhere here. Do you see a word called trending? I don't. There is a trending here, but I don't see it anywhere else. Or maybe it clicked on it. What did it do? It's got this text as uh, what if I sleep a little bit between these? So see, after it clicks on that search, I'm hardly giving it any time. I want it to sleep after that for 3 seconds and then rerun this because I can't see this text called trending in there, team. And team, after this, I'm going to take a few more minutes break and we'll connect back for another half an hour towards the end and go through the remaining. Any questions so far, please? Actual, see, is not come. Expected is trending, so that is hard coded. Actual, because of waiting, it did not come. Let's see if there's a trending. See, there's a trending here. So if I click on it, trending would not work. So I could do that test out here. Mhm. Let's do this. I'll take these two and put it here. Because once you type yoga, we're searching for that word trending in that page, team. And this is the other thing, how we look at automation. Which page are we in? So I'm in the home page now. I've just typed yoga and let's say I click on this. I go to the next page, but the trending word is in the home page. So you got to get this before you click on it. That is what simple thing we've done. So now as you start noticing, team, the complexity of how much code that I need to put in is increasing. And more only for just one verification of one element there. So that kind of can be something challenging. So we need to work through that. All right, now let's see. So there you go. Now at least it makes more sense because I'm able to get that and it's passing. The earlier time it ran, the first time is because it didn't wait for it. It just got it. So it was flying through it. Now we navigate it to a different page. After this, let's see what else is there. Ting, ting, ting. Enabled test to pass. What is it that we're doing? Um, oh, the whole thing again. If driver find expat ID, identifier ID is enabled. Hmm, just a simple test, team. I don't think I'll worry about it too much. So that was the DDF2. Now let's look at DDF3 and how does it differentiate from that. So DDF2 was a long flow, right, team, of what we had to do each time we were, and that is what I think I was mentioning there as well. See, I'm starting the browser, I'm doing a few things, and I have finished one test. I have another test, then I want to start the browser and then kill it and so on. So instead of writing repetitive code, a JUnit, the one I was explaining earlier, makes life easy. So let me minimize these to show you what we have here. So that same code, we could transition it into a better looking JUnit, where before each test, I go to the application. After each test, I kind of close it and send test end. And in here, I have a simple one where it's saying search for something, click on it, uh, look for trending and see if it passes. So this should pass or fail. We don't know, team. Now, the next one is it's going ID text, click, click. I don't even know what, let's say, assume this is what these are doing. This is commented, I'll on comment, so both will run. And let us see what happens when we execute. So that's 1 out of 2 tests executed in JUnit, and it ran fine. It ran fine because we didn't really compare anything and we just printed something. The second one, however, it gave an exception and says element not interactable and so on. I don't know which one, but let's click on it and it'll take us there. Double click line 47. So ID text dot click. So I don't know where it'll find ID text. Is that a different X path? Not sure. Let's see. ID is search. Somewhere in the application, there'll be an ID text. So, but ID text could be there for everything. Maybe we're referring to this. Inspect. Didn't go there. Inspect again. AID is video title. ID here is menu. No, let's see anything under this. This is what we're getting. Class ID is video title here. I'll show you, team. I'll maybe use a Selenium ID to look at where this is. I'm just trying to see what is this element and why I'm trying to click on it. But the whole crux is, team, we've run 2 tests. Out of this, 1 test passed and the other failed. And it's taken us 22.7 seconds. That's a simple JUnit report that you're getting. So primarily, from my perspective, JUnit and a simple linear framework like this, ends there. But now we're talking about more of how we can parameterize this. So far we just did simple executions with hardcore things like yoga or computer science. But how could we further parameterize them and take it into different one? So in this one, I think we've taken a new application. We wrote a basic JUnit code itself. I'm navigating to an app. I have one test, which is as of now that I see that it is doing certain activities, and I have an after. Let's quickly run this code and see what it does. So mortgage calculator is that app on financial application. Good. I like this because it helps us interact and play around to learn a little bit on automation, everything on the home page and so on. So execution is all done, and primarily it is how we're progressing with whenever, if it's a new application also, all that I changed is the URL here, and then I identified the different other elements, sending different values into it and so on. So team, it's about 1:15 right now, and I just want to make sure if there are any questions, or I'll take a quick 5 minutes break and then I can rejoin and finish up a few more. I know it could be tempting for us to just maybe finish up the whole training for the day. A few more, team. I just want to show a few more and go in with it. All right. And I just want to make sure, team, for tomorrow's session, I will send a new link to all the IT Learn members, so you can take it from there, please. Okay, so it's 1:12. Can we all join back at 1:20 p.m. in 8 minutes from now onto the same link? Thank you all. I'll see you soon. Bye now.